for the Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Agajanian Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. Waiting to be profiled is actor-director Mitchell Ryan and director Jules Aaron. Mitchell Ryan, you've seen his face in dozens of feature films like Hot Shots Part 2, The Friends of Eddie Coyle, and Lethal Weapon, has been on hundreds of MOWs, I love that, Movies of the Week, and lots of television guest appearances in New York and on the LA stage. And Mitchell, you've been doing everything. You're taking time out now to direct Secret Honor, the last testament of Richard Nixon at the Fountain Theater. And it was written by Donald Freed and Arnold Stone.
Yes.
Is this the first play you've directed?
No, I actually I directed about 25 years ago. I've been directing for a couple of years, and I don't know, I enjoyed it, but I got away from it, and I got into acting more. I had been in acting, and I had directed Uncle Vanya in several shows in stock and around, and a couple of things at the Actors Studio in New York, and then I got away from it, and I got involved in a career, and a movie career, and a television career, and I've always kept connections with the stage back and forth, and I act around town all the time. I did actually with Jules Aaron. I did Long Day's Journey into Night. Jules Aaron with the Long Day's Journey into Night.
So do you like to be directed by other people?
Oh yeah, I appreciate the director, but what I found coming back, last year I directed Murray Mednick's play, Murray Mednick's called Fidan over for the Skirball Kinnis Foundation, and I'd love to watch actors get it and start coming, and especially with a wonderful play. And I've known Philip Baker Hall for years, and we've acted together in many plays. And
Philip Baker Hall is the lead. He plays the Nixon role.
He's playing Nixon.
And the play is about Richard M. Nixon and his resignation. Is that right?
Well, it's after the resignation, and he's floundering around at what happened and what is so extraordinary that Donald Freed has done, which is I had seen the film that Bob Altman had done, and it's a great, admirable piece, an extraordinary bit of virtuoso acting and marvelous. But what's really, when you get close to it and start working with it, you see the fabric of this play is so beautifully drawn. And Philip, after 10 years of being away from it, and it won all the awards, won all sorts of awards in the early...
many awards,
in the 80s, and Altman immediately got attached to it.
Well, is that what happened? Robert Altman saw the play, and then he did a film of it?
Yeah, he saw the play here and actually produced it as a play in New York, and then did a film of it. So
we have a little clip of it. Now, you didn't direct it. You didn't direct
this. No, this is Bob Altman's film.
This is the film. Let's just show a little bit about it, and then we'll go back to seeing how you're going to direct him in this new situation.
Sure.
Okay, Roberto. Would you send call Mr. Stein at my publishers to pick up that package that I gave you? Oh yes. Would you also tell Mrs. Nixon that Oh, yes.
Will you be directing in the same way? Do you bring a different thing to it than what he's used to doing?
Philip came back to it very, kind of trepidatious, as a lot of us do. I did Moon for the Misbegotten about 5 years after I'd done the original New York production.
Is it hard to come back?
And it was difficult. So you got a scare and what the hell's going on. But I knew, and Philip knew, that once you got into it, you'd find some things, and he is finding some extraordinary things, different, because before and Bob Altman had a great hand in it and brought a hand to it. But Philip created the situation, and he created it in a way that he loved at the time, and it seemed to work. Now it's 10, 12 years later, and he's interested in other aspects of his life. He's a little bit older, and because of Donald's brilliant writing, this is, as someone said, a play for the ages. It is an extraordinary piece of literature and playwriting, and I think also Philip is now finding that Nixon is a human being, and he reflects a society he lived in. He reflects a whole nation who don't want to admit this, who don't want to get involved in this in any way. It's wonderful to hate Nixon, and it's, as he says in the play one time, we all maybe don't know what we want to be in life, but we don't want to be Richard Nixon. That's one thing we're sure about.
But what you were saying is you come to it 10 years later, you look at your own life in a different way, and I think you probably
I think that's what's happening to Philip, and he's very excited about it.
But what about you? Do you work with him as far as directing him, or do you bring something
oh, sure.
different
No,
to it?
Well, the great thing about an actor is that he is a very delicate, and I know this because I've been mutilated by the directors, and I've been helped by directors. Is a delicate thing. It's a mechanism that works in a very delicate way, and if it's nurtured in the right way, it can flower. And that has nothing to do with the director. It's just the director creates the climate in which and indicates a choice. But the writing is what indicates a choice usually, because the writing is if the writing is there and it's connected and it's psychologically sound, and the actor is sensitive to it, it works.
Does the writer come in then and work with you? Like, will Donald Fried come in and work at the Fountain Theater and talk about what to do?
Well, he did all that enormous work originally when they first did it. So, but Donald certainly will be around, and he'll come and have a talk. And
do you generally work with the authors, or do you take it alone if you're going to direct something?
Well, Chekhov was dead.
Yeah, you couldn't do that. Well, we can't do that.
but Murray Mednick was quite alive, and he was there, and he was a bit, but he was very happy. And I mean, it's his baby. I mean, he wrote it. I mean, it's.
Well, then what do you bring to it? How do you bring something to it?
I just told you. You create the climate in which the actor can flower, and if you don't do that, then.
But how do you do it? Do you do it by knowing the material, or do you put yourself in that role and say, "I'm going to this is what I'm thinking should happen"?
Well, you can't. I can't help doing that. I mean,
because you're an actor. Yeah. That's what I thought would be.
But I'm a actor. I mean, Philip is a real actor. I mean, Philip is an incredible artist. I mean, I'm an actor, but and I'm not downgrading myself in any way. I mean, just Philip is an extraordinary thing. But the idea that a director has to keep the vision, an actor has to have somebody out there who says, and it's just a light touch. It's not a heavy touch. It's a light touch. I think a little more than a little, and a direction, and guide him off if he gets off in a direction, because it's very subjective. You're going through a lot of them. You're out there when you're an actor, and your emotional wreck, and if you don't, if your technique is strong, then you are in better shape. But if it's not, then you need more help. But Philip is in great control of his instrument, and so he's.
This is one of the things I was thinking about when it's a one-person play, that I didn't even think they needed a director. But then listening to you and listening to other directors talk about keeping people in focus and on the line, and also the timing, I guess, you help them with.
Also, the energy. The energy of a director is a very important thing. If the energy of the director is focused, and it brings more energy. Two people have, and especially Philip and I, have this incredible kind of energy together, because we're both high-key energy people, that that makes us, allows us to be able to work in a strong way. And also to hold in a bigger cast, the director has to be focused, because you have 15 people you're directing, like in Murray Mednick's play. I had to constantly be focused so that they would stay focused, otherwise they'd wander off like sheep and you know.
That's what I would think.
Go and have a cigarette and go, you know.
Would that be more difficult, having 15? I mean, or having one?
I think a bigger play is more, this is a delight. This is an incredible treat to watch Philip and to guide him and to help him, and it's just a great treat. And I think why I love directing now is because I really, maybe earlier on I always wanted to get up and do it, and I don't want to get up and do it anymore. I mean, I'd love to watch him go, and I love these actors in Murray's play to move, and you know, I mean, I just had. And I suppose earlier I said, well, I would have done it this way, and I should have done it that way.
Yeah.
Why isn't he doing it this way? You know, I mean, but I don't have that feeling anymore. And
what about your own kind of roles? What roles do you play? We've talked about all these films because you're a face that everyone's seen. How do they vary?
Well, in the plays that I've done, say for instance, the plays in Jules Aaron's direction of Long Day's Journey that I did. I played the old man. I played the James Tyrone, and I worked for Joe Stern down at the tavern, at the Matrix Theater. I did the tavern where I played this big drunken tavern owner, you know, so which is a 19th century farce, which is a different kind of thing. So I play on the stage. I play all kinds, from old to dashing to whatever, you know. In the films, I seem to get kind of pigeonholed in a kind of bad guy kind of parts.
Are you the bad guy?
But in this picture that I'm doing now with Gina Davis and Michael Keaton, I'm playing. It's a farce. I mean, it's a comedy. So I hope to get involved because I love comedy, and I play a lot of comedy on the stage. I don't seem to get that much in film, you know.
Have you ever done stand-up?
No, I haven't done stand-up, but I played comedy in plays and
movies.
Stuff.
Where did this all start? Where were you born? Where'd you go to school?
Well, let's see. I can't remember that far back. Actually, Nixon has this great thing in the play. Says, 1945. 1945. The year is 1945. So in 1939, I went, what? It's like, I can't even remember. I know that at one point I went to Virginia after I got out of the Navy. And then I came back to Kentucky. Then I went to New York. But see
the United States.
Yes, but I did about, I've done, I don't know, 200 plays, I guess, probably.
Have you always wanted to be an actor?
Well, no, actually, I never even thought about it until I got out of the Navy, and my sister was acting, and she was involved in the theater in Louisville, at the University of Louisville.
Louisville.
Louisville. And this is before all the big theaters there, and so I got interested, you know, and went from there. You know, went to Virginia to work in the Barter Theater, which is the State Theater of Virginia, and then I went to New York. And immediately I started doing pretty well there. I mean, I did a lot of plays. I mean,
well, you were a great presence, and you've been a great presence on the show today.
Well, thank you.
We thank you for being with us.
Oh, I thank you
very much, really, and it's exciting to see someone with your experience guiding someone else with his experience. So thanks a lot.
It's great fun, a treat. Thank you,
Thank
Joan.
you. And don't go away, because we're going to be right back with Jules Aaron. We're going to find out how he directs people. Hi, we're back with director Jules Aaron. Jules Aaron is the recipient of 13 Drama-Logue Awards. He's directed over 120 off-Broadway and off-Broadway productions. Jules has worked in regional theater and for public television. He's directed seasoned actors like Juliet Mills, David Burney, and Maxwell Caulfield, and worked with the top writers like John Guare, Keith Redden, Susan Miller, among others. Did I say that wrong?
Keith Redden.
You worked extensively on both coasts, Jules. What's the difference?
Well, I've been settled in L.A., and I have to say that I think of myself as a West Coast director.
Oh, good. We want you.
And even though I have fights with my friends on the East Coast over that, I remember the first show I did at the Public Theater. The Paps wondered how I could exist in this cultural wasteland, and I said, "Well, there's not only wonderful theater here, but all the actors are out here." And when you see a wonderful actor like Mitch Ryan, who you've spoken to, you understand the quality of people that we have out here. While I work all over the country, I'm happiest working in Southern California.
I think you really did point out one of the things we have here is we do have the business. We have the film business here, so you can draw.
Everyone's out here.
And maybe as a director, it gives you new depth to work with people who haven't been on Broadway or off Broadway.
It's a combination. Many of the people who are out here now have had wonderfully successful theatrical careers. And some of them come from film and want to do theater. And
that's what I mean. That would probably be a great challenge for you.
And then the most fun is getting the people who, when they're not doing their TV shows, when they're not doing the films, they want to do a play, and they have a tremendous appetite to do it. When I worked with David Burney and Joan Van Ark on Macbeth, this was something that the two of them, who are really theater people who've worked a lot in television and film, but theater people who want to do the classics, still want to do that kind of work. And it's terrific having them because they have an enormous appetite to do it.
Well, we talk about accomplished actors. When you go, and you're the hardest person to get a hold of. I've been trying to get you for several months because you're always working and you're always, as much as you call Southern California your home, you're gone. If you work in Louisville or Philadelphia or New Mexico or one of these other regions that has great theater, what do? Are you working with a known actor, or do you cast the play there, or what happens?
It depends. Usually I work anywhere from New York to the regions, and very often there are companies of actors who work in a specific theater. But for instance, if you're working in Philadelphia, you're casting out of New York, or Actors Theater of Louisville, you're still casting out of New York and sometimes California, depending. And there may be 4 or 5 people in the show who are part of the season, and they'll play certain parts, but usually they're bringing in other people.
Oh, I see. Do you play a role in that?
Very much so. Usually we'll cast a show anywhere from 3 weeks to 2 months before we go into rehearsal is the usual pattern, unless we've offered a role to somebody. For instance, a show that's coming up is To Kill a Mockingbird, and Bruce Davidson is doing that show at La Mirada, and that's something that we've said, even though we'll do the rest of the casting later.
So you know.
So we know that he's doing it.
Now let's go back to regional theater, because once you spend the time getting ready, the rehearsals, this play opens, and how long do you have to stay in that city?
It opens and I'm gone.
Is that what happens?
Yes, that's usually what happens. Many directors really like to come back and watch their shows. If I'm in a city, I will check a show. Usually I work with an assistant, and when I leave the city, the assistant as well as the stage manager keeps an eye on what's going on with the show.
Will they be in touch with you by phone
Absolutely.
and ask you certain
Absolutely.
things?
If there are any problems, actors have called me. Certainly I'm available, and if I'm in town, I'll periodically look at the show to make sure it stays in good shape. But I think one reason for having a good stage manager or a good assistant is that they help the show remain the way you directed it.
So your stage manager, your assistant would be someone from that area?
Yes.
Or someone, I see.
Yeah.
And then so you're in essence training or working with him in tandem or her in tandem to get it the way you want it.
Yes, I train directors. Actually, I co-head an MFA directing program program at California Institute of the Arts, and I train directors, and I'm very much believe in on-hands experience. So not only do I use my own directors, but very often younger directors from the areas that I work, and it's nice having someone not only learning with you, but getting feedback from them, and I'll leave them with the show, and they'll keep an eye on it for me.
Well, you teach at Cal Arts. I wanted to ask you about that. Is this what you teach in the classroom, or does it have to be in a theater, or do you combine your class?
Oh, it's combined. I mean, Cal Arts basically is a conservatory program, and so we're teaching, we give BFAs and MFAs, so we're dealing with actors, designers, directors, stage managers, and I primarily train directors, and of course they're working in a hands-on situation with actors and designers.
Have you ever acted?
I stopped acting when I was 20, and it was a very wise decision. It was, it's an interesting story, and I'll make it short. It was after I saw a matinee in Detroit of Beckett with Laurence Olivier, and I think I was 20, and I saw him on a Saturday afternoon in Detroit, and I said, if he can give this performance in Detroit on a Saturday afternoon, I'm in the wrong profession, and I stopped acting at that point.
Do you think a director has to be an actor? Do you think that's important?
I think it's very important to know the acting process. Our directors take the acting classes. They know what the actors go through so that they can work with them in a dynamic and hopefully a way that enhances what the actors bring to the roles. And I think it did help me, for better or for worse, to do the acting that I did. I was at least wise enough to know when to stop.
I watched you one night. I don't know if you even knew I was watching you. It was in that musical that Stephen Atinsky had written at the Zephyr Theater. And you were just laughing and enjoying what was going on. And I thought, this is a great director. He loves what his actors are doing. And I thought, you were really into it. I mean, you didn't have that tenseness.
I tend to be, I love theater, and I tend to be a very good audience, hopefully for my own shows, but also for other people's shows as well. I'm one of these people who really go to the theater and also to film to really have a good time. And if things are going well, I'm known for my meticulous note-taking on my own shows, but I certainly plan on having a good time each time I enter a theater, and if it's my own show, I especially like having a good time.
Do you enjoy it the same way when you're directing? Can you sit back, or is it like every move the actor makes, you're going, oh, he should have done this or he should have done that?
It's certainly different for a show I've directed, and when I do come back, I'm obviously looking at the show in terms of what's working and what's not working, but I'm a very good audience when those shows are working.
What happens with the personality, the director, actor? I don't know. I don't like to say conflict because I don't want to set up a conflict, but collaboration, let's say.
Well, it's certainly about collaboration. Certainly there are cases where you work with actors who, for a variety of reasons, have their own particular agendas, and I think that, to me, the most important thing is the script, and is the audience's comprehension and enjoyment of what they're seeing. And I think if you look at that as the focus, that it's not about my direction or your performance, but about the script that you're working on, I think you can usually find an understanding. There are dream actors to work with, there are difficult actors to work with. My major criteria for an actor is that they deliver the performance and that they make the script work.
Is it important to you to have the writer around?
I love having the playwright around. I think there's probably a period, especially with a new work, where there's a week or so where, in terms of exploration, it's good for the actors not to feel that presence. But for the rest of the time, I think with new plays and certainly with revivals of plays, I love to have the playwrights there. I have a very good relationship with playwrights. One of the things I'm known for is the fact that in development of plays.
Before you got to 20 years old in your acting career, where'd you go to school? Did you go to school in the arts and with the arts in mind?
Yes, I was always interested in the arts. I didn't know exactly where when I was younger. My undergraduate degree was at Wayne State, and then I got a PhD from NYU in theater history and criticism with a focus in directing. But I think one of the reasons I'm a good dramaturg, I work well with scripts, is because my background really is in literature.
Do you think that makes a big difference? Obviously, you just said it did, but it brings something else to the direction quality, doesn't it?
I think that I had a good undergraduate and graduate education. I studied a lot in terms of art and design and architecture, and all of that has been enormously helpful. When I created the program at Cal Arts for directing, I created the program that I would have liked to have taken if I was trained as a director.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you go to director school? I mean, is there a director school?
Well, directors
other than what you're talking
directors
about?
come from a variety of places. I certainly think a good graduate training program is an excellent place for a director to work. Many of our directors also have worked professionally before they come to the program, and certainly we hope they work professionally after they're in the program. But I think that that's one helpful way. Many very fine directors come out of acting, and as Mitch, still continue to act. But I think, especially for theater, the more you're aware of the acting experience, whether you've been an actor or not, I think the more helpful it is. And the other thing that I find very helpful is a knowledge of scripts and how they work and how to deal with them.
And that all goes along with
training certainly helps.
Right. We have to go, but very quickly, you're working on several projects. You want to name just a few so we can keep looking for them? There's
a group of things going. We have a wonderful production of a very fun off-Broadway musical called Song of Singapore.
Right, and that's at what theater?
That's at International City Theater in Long Beach.
It started there, yeah.
And it's a lot of fun. And a one-woman show on Marlene Dietrich called Rendezvous with Marlene, starring Toril, who's a wonderful singer, actress from Norway.
And she plays that all over. She plays that role all the time.
She's Marlene.
She's Marlene. And you're Jules Aaron. And thanks for being with us.
And it's a pleasure finally having this interview with you.
Thank you very much. And thanks very much for being with us on the Joan Quinn Profiles. Keep writing to us at 520 South Grand. See you next time.